All right, welcome fellow Mythrunians. Hopefully some of you are joining us tonight to watch me further debug all of the things I've been messing with this week. So without further ado, let's get started. Go ahead and thank the patrons. Yeah, especially this week, you guys have meant a lot to me. I started a new project at work after a long time, and it's taken all my time, and so when I stumble back and work on this, I remember there's people waiting for me, and so it gives me a little extra motivation at night. So thanks everybody. Without further ado, I'm going to get started because I'm in the middle of debugging something. I was trying to figure out why. I was trying to sort of genericize visiting a set of neighbor sites. So here, like, I'm trying to calculate population for a particular place, so I'm trying to sample all the surrounding places because those will all feed into the population for a particular site. I did this differently before, where I would do multiple propagations from cell to cell to cell to cell, but this time I'm trying to just take it, draw like a circle around and pull in influences, do this, take a circle around and draw in influences. Because my overall approach has changed, I think this will be faster, but I have the manual way, which is to loop and check the range. And then I've tried to make this sort of more generic way that I can use for lots of different things. And for some reason I'm getting a different result, and so I've been debugging that. And so it's like we see, if I do, let me back out here. This is the kind of stuff I get wrapped up in that takes time and doesn't actually progress the project any, except for, fixing bugs. So we get those answers there, but we visited, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 sites, which makes roughly sense. And if I set this to false, then it takes the other branch. Looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 sites. And you can see that it let some of larger radius in, which concerns me because we should be 4 or less here, but we let some 8s and 5s in. In fact, why are we getting 5s in the first place? So something weird is going on, that even though the algorithms are supposed to be the same, one is different. It uses some different numbers and things, but so real quickly, since I was already started on this, I'm going to go ahead and finish debugging this. I'm sure I've screwed up the math somewhere simple. That's been my thing all week, is screwing up simple things. I think partly that's distraction of new job. So we just verify all assumptions until we see something strange. At least it's not taking forever. It was taking like a half hour to run before. Okay, so why in the 8 case dx is minus 2, dx minus 2. Why is d squared 8? Yeah, okay. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 8. But then why do we let it through? Because we're supposed to be skipping it. I'm making the assumption that you all can hear me. I didn't even check to see if audio was playing. Yep. Okay, cool. Looks like we've got 2 on tonight. So I'm just going to try to debug this for a few more minutes. I don't actually need to, except for I'm going to use this routine a lot. So I'd like to get it working. And try to figure out why this if statement is not working. 5 by 5, yep. Thing is, like, I know what you mean when you say that, and but since I'm dealing with like all these different things for a minute, I was thinking like an array, 5 by 5. No, I know what you mean. 5 by 5, coming through loud and clear. 5 by 5. So d squared is 8, r squared 4. Oh, so that's definitely a noob mistake right there, flipping the Ta-da! Okay, so we should get the same, should be able to clear out this debug, famous last words. We should get the same results from here. Let's take a screenshot as if I did this. And take another screenshot. And they should be identical now. Doink, 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 doink. Yep, flip them back and forth. They are the same. Cool. Okay, so now I have a generic approach to that. And real quickly, git commit work in progress baseline start of live stream, just so I'm not afraid to delete some stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and commit that. Okay, and then I will talk about where I am, what I'm doing, but now I get to clean this up to just this and take this out. Whoopsie, I screwed something up. Oh yeah, debug. Okay. Actually, you know what? There's not better than 0 chance that I will have to debug things again. So let's go ahead and leave the debugging infrastructure and just set it to false for now. Okay. So what that does? Oh, say let's back up. Beep beep beep. So last week you remember I was working on farms and things. I did get that stuff working where I can load a part of the world, and I actually used that this week to debug lots of things and to determine some things with respect to town placement. For example, one of the things I looked at was if one of these sample points on the map is inside a river or a stream. Before, I was just eliminating it from consideration, like you couldn't build a town there because it's in a river, right? You couldn't build a town there, but each of these points on this map represent, potentially 128 meters, in each direction. If there was nothing next to it. And so being in a river doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't build a town there, because that river might be fairly thin. And so then I was trying to figure out what river radius is too big. And so I looked at some examples and messed with my map, and then I pulled them up in here. And so I have one here where I was, this was very useful to test it out, where I, so it builds it. And he's pulling in like a super big area. So it takes it a second, especially since I run this other thing in the background. So hold on a second. It's also still copying the world in the slowest way, one cell at a time. I never did go back and optimize that, which is also why there's no water in these pictures, you'll see. So here it comes. Come on, you can do it. Come on. There we go. So this is a river, those straight rivers that aren't really winding like they're supposed to. And this is a town site that I placed in the middle of the river. And this river is almost 30 meters wide radius each direction. And so I was seeing, and this is there's another one of these town sites over here in the woods way over here. This is the tower for this town, and this is the tower for some town that's in the trees over here. And so that'd be like 128 meters. And so it's like, 30 meters wide, probably you could still build a town over here. And given that there could be nothing over here, it's quite likely. And so that let me kind of drill in on a radius that I liked for if one of these sites is plopped in the middle of the river, we could still potentially build on either side because the river's not that wide. This river only goes to here. I got down a rabbit hole because I was trying to figure out why, rivers still had grass on the bottom, and I tried to fix that, and it took me several days to figure out that I had a XY versus XZ problem in the code that I wrote. So yeah, again, noob errors all week. So anyway, this has been tremendously useful. And when I go to figure out proper rivers and things, this will be super useful because it's way faster than loading the game to just do something. So thanks you guys for being with me last week when I started that, because it turned out to be super useful. Okay, so back to here. What I did was I kind of took a step back, since I had gone down the population quote unquote rabbit hole of trying to figure out, based on foraging, farming, how much fishing is there, the water supply, is there a lot of fresh water, do they have to collect rainwater, is it the middle of the desert, what base population could one of these 128 by 128 squares support. And so then I started some of that last week, I guess. Let me go ahead and turn these coastal settlements off for a second. And we'll go back over here and I'll turn on the cell stats, because I've kind of stopped doing this ad hoc and tried to come up with a sort of straightforward, repeatable way that I can start to draw graphics that represent the areas in a way that is consistent. I don't know if that means anything to you, but you can kind of see, let me pull over one over here to the edge. You can kind of see there's these black, so this black line represents the point on the ground that this site represents, and then this square is where we're drawing our graph, quote unquote graph of the those line graphs, and then each of the colors means something different. So in this case we've got cyan and green, which I think is freshwater. Is it freshwater? And woods. So we're more than halfway. So let's look at it. So yeah, so if water is greater than 20, that's not water. Cyan. Cyan is the climate. Okay. So that's the climate here. It's reasonably hot and wet, or it's reasonably wet, I guess is what the climate means here. And this green is the sort of vegetation level. If it's green, that means it's above halfway, which means it's probably thick forest. That's what these down here do. If it's less than half, it'll be orange, and so those would be just regular high vegetation areas. Then I got other colors for other things, red and gray for cliffs and stone and things. So these red all by themselves with no markers on, that just means it's shallow water. We won't build anything there, but that could be where fishing is done. Over here where we get some, see if we can find some cliffs. Where would we find cliffs? Probably over here. Yeah, I can see them. So right here we've got these red ones mean we're on the top of a cliff. We can oversee things. Gray and yellow are basically interchangeable right now because I can't tell the difference. Mostly, you get sometimes different because shallower cliffs mean stone and steeper cliffs mean minerals. Eventually there'll be mineral fractals that kind of place the high mineral veins in the world, and so those will be more different than they are now. But anyway, so these stats tell me kind of at a glance what's going on here. So this is at the top of a cliff, just one cliff though, not a lot of cliffs. This is at the top of a lot of cliffs, like in a lot of different directions, is steep downhill. So more likely that you'd have some kind of cliff top thing there. This is kind of in between. It's got less than half vegetation, but it's still pretty high. It's got some natural water. The climate's good, etc. And so from here, if we pull out, we can kind of see that the rivers and stuff influence freshwater. Like if we're looking up here, you can kind of see that around the rivers, depending on the river width and so on, we get more fresh water. And so from here we can determine farmland and all kinds of stuff. So that's just the general sites, the land characteristics, and I can use that to feed the other things. And what I was doing before was I was using that sort of calculate a probability along the coastlines, and then based on the stats for there and their surrounding areas, and then randomly select places for coastline points and then use that to influence probabilities elsewhere. But it was always using these base stats, and so always considering the whole world. And I've changed it a little bit so that each pass can treat this data a little differently. And so right now I'm working on the coastline pass. And the coastline, so the general idea, the coastline would find random spots of high probability and roll the dice, and coastline cities would be created. And then from there we use those to influence where smaller towns would be less likely to form and more likely to form. So just like before, within the immediate radius they'd be less likely, but then within a day or two of travel they'd be more likely. And so then we use those to then calculate probabilities based on those, but we're less likely to pull in samples from surrounding areas for each of those towns. We'll let them stand on their own, kind of thing. Might pull from a smaller radius. Once we have those towns, though, the next pass is where we ignore all surrounding areas. We basically, so let's say we put a town here, or a city here because it's a port or whatever. That's what the yellow means there, I think. No, yellow on one side of the line. Yeah, yellow on the side of the line means port. And so then we made a town over here, and now we want to find the small things like farms and woodcutter huts and mining operations and different things. And from those we would just look at individual sites within the range of towns, rather than for like when we decided this was a town, we pulled in all these areas to see what kind of population and other things would feed it. But anyway, it makes sense to me. I don't want to talk about it too much because I think doing will make it clearer. And so I'm going to kill these. And if you have any questions while I go, I'm talking really fast. I got a lot I wanted to do tonight because I'm trying to get this wrapped up. I really wanted to get town placement at least wrapped up by the end of March. And I don't think that's going to happen tonight, so I don't think it's going to happen by the end of March, but maybe. All right, so let's turn off those stats. But I'm tired of messing with this, and so like all week I've been saying, perfect is the enemy of good. Perfect is the enemy of good. Let's make it good. All right, so back to plotting coastal. So what I'm plotting here is probabilities, and if the probability is 0, basically anything that's got a possibility of being a seaport will get one of these tick marks. And if it's yellow, that means probability, and red means probability was 0. So for example, down here we should have a lot of red. Yeah, so all of these could have been ports, but basically no matter what you do, there's not enough food or water to support a population there. So it's extremely unlikely that a settlement would have ever formed here for non-natural reasons, right? Or for natural reasons. And here there must be some water or fishing or something that puts it up just a little. We maybe support a handful of people. And so there is a non-zero chance that something might form here. Way more likely that something would form up here, because we start to get, right now I'm only including population in these statistics, so the probability is 100% based on population. That's not right. That's what I was about to do when this live stream started. So let's go back up to here, because this is a reasonable area. These in the older algorithm, 2 towns formed right here, or was it right here? I think it was right here. So the new algorithm will be different, and they will probably form in different places, but we'll see. So we'll kind of leave that up while we work. I'll take a sip of my beverage. And so I made this visit neighbors because it's quite likely that, in fact, I need to alter this a little bit, because we don't just want the cell, or do we? We can calculate the one from the other, so I'm not too concerned. But it's quite common to visit the neighbors within a certain radius and want to do things with them. So I created this closure taking, visit neighbors that does all that work for me. And that's what let me say, okay, visit all the neighbors around this guy, and for everyone, for everyone within that radius that I specified, take their population and add it to my population, because this particular site, can take the population of all these people. That's what it kind of represents. It could spread out. I don't know. It makes sense to me. And then I just turn that straight into a probability, which is not accurate, but I just needed to see it visualized. But the other thing we want to do here is check for, the classic resources. Max people will cover food and water, but we also want to check for, stone, wood, and river ports, minerals, that kind of thing. So, and we'll factor all those into probability. So first, what we would do, see, I recently redid all this, so we want, see, all this is garbage now that I just haven't removed. These are the real things. I calculate the wood another way. But let's say we'll want wood, stone, minerals, and river ports. Okay? So, wood, let's make it doubles for now. Double. Wood, stone, minerals, and, well, this will definitely be an int. Seaports. Okay, so, and actually we can set these up based on the current cell we're looking at. So wood would be, so if a vegetation level, basically trees can grow in all kinds of places, but what we're talking about here is when there's enough trees that you could reasonably use for forestry. And so in here, if the vegetation level is greater than 0.5, then we want to treat that as woods, and we're going to make this sort of a wood factor. Yeah, we'll do this for every cell. And so what I'm trying to do is take vegetation level between 0.5 and 1 and turn that into 0 to 1. And so we've got vegetation minus 0.5, which if it's over 0.5 will be between 0 and 0.5, but we'll multiply that by 2 then. And by putting a math.max, we'll get rid of any negatives. So if vegetation was level was less than 0.5, we'll just end up with 0. Hope that makes sense. Stone, we will make, that is when we actually have that as cell data. Yes, I do. Here. Cliffs, flat sea bursting. Stone and minerals. Yeah, okay, so I do set stone and minerals. And so we'll just add those up. Stone equals cell.stone, cell.minerals, cell.seaports. And then in here, what we'll do is we'll add the neighbors. But I kind of want to normalize. so it'll be good for now. Alright, so we've built these different numbers, and so let's check. See, max wood would only ever be however many we visited. So visited plus plus. Oh, visited starts at 1. And so if we wanted to make wood so now wood would be between 0 and 1, and so let's just set probability equal to wood just to see what it looks like. Whoops, spell it right. And so now we get I really expected more yellow. So here's where we like to debug things. The thing is, I don't know what max looks like. I didn't encode that, so just make this 400. At least we'll see what 400 would look like. So that would be max. So this just has a little bit of wood, even less wood. It seems unlikely. So let's put my debug back. Whoops. No such property A. It did something wrong. 107. Oh, random garbage. Great. I can't be trusted. Debug. Info. I'm curious how many we visit in a pass. I think it's 12, 13. Yeah, including ourselves. So let's log wood. Oh, we probably wanted to log it before I had it in the right place before. Okay. Whoops. WAD. Isn't it nice to get to watch me write typos? Okay, so in our debug thing, we visited 13 and the wood was only 0.53. But let's check and see if we're doing something screwy here. If debug log info cell.bio.vegetation. I never trust my math anymore. Oops. So the vegetation level was 0.73. Yeah, so basically we'd never get to 100%. We could so I somewhere have an example of curves. Wow. Yeah, so we got like smooth step. So right now I'm doing linear, which would be kind of like this yellow line here. And I think I might change that to to a smooth step. It would cross the middle at the same place, but it would kind of give us more area at the top end. And so it would make because what it turns out is, you know, at 0.5 probability you get or 0.5 vegetation level, you get a lot of trees, and at like 0.75, you 0.75 and above, you get almost so many trees you can barely walk. So, I mean, as far as wood cutting goes, I think we can. So let's say. The other thing is we can so it'd still be the same. So fractal util smooth step 0 1 vegetation level, and now we don't have to do. Yes, we do. We still want the 0.5 thing. Okay, so we saw before. Vegetation level is 27.3. Yeah, so see, it was 0.47 before, now it's so basically it increases. Now we need to do this for all of them. So let's steal this and make this neighbor again. Right. And visited. Yeah, so we've got. They should have gotten a little higher. For some reason, 0.7. So this is not right. We're not visualizing it right either. Well, first of all, let me find my debug spot. 25 215. Around here, and then. Yeah, so 25 215 is this guy right here. It's one of these guys in here, right? Minus 1024. Oops. I'm basically looking up here, right? Minus 224, 25, 215. Oh, thanks, Ron. I'm glad somebody was. I'm kind of waiting to get done with this. I hope this Paul guy finishes this because I'm tired of working on it. So that when we calculated it, it was 0.75, and for some reason it's not drawing that big. Oh, because that was 0.75 before visited. No. Oh, forgot the plus equals. See, again, making stupid mistakes this week, which I got to tell you, not a good thing, not a good mode to be in when you're starting a new project at work, and like completely different team. I'm not talking about my team didn't just start with a new project. I don't have my team anymore. I was the expert on the last team, and now I'm the new guy on the new team. So it's not a good time to be making stupid mistakes. All right, so that is what it's supposed to look like, and so then we can check any of these. Then we can make stone equals stone divided by visited. I hope you all have had a better week than I've had. I mean, I haven't had a bad week, but just, thinking wise. Everything else in life is going alright, I guess. Okay, so let's see what stone looks like. We shouldn't have much stone at the coastlines. Yeah, so we got some, oh cool. Got some stone over here by these guys. We've got some, let's see. Oh wait, I was just reusing this one. Minerals. I don't think we should have any minerals at the coastlines, but maybe we do. Yeah, so everybody's red. Oh, yeah, okay. So these guys. Yeah, so this is going to be a problem because I haven't factored in that I think the seaports are still generating when they're too tall, maybe. Whenever I redo something, there's always the chance that I left some calculation out. So let's see how I increment not here, it's in here. Seaports. Yeah, so if we'll basically create a seaport potentially on really super high cliffs, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Let's talk about how we will construct a probability from, well, let me do one more thing. Let's put the people thing back for a second. What do you suppose our max calculated population is? That's what I want to see. Max population. Max overall population equals 0, so we'll do max overall population equals math.max and max people. And then at the end, log info max overall. So I saw something pop up over here, but I'm taking it. Nice. Yeah, I mean it's all brand new. They, the team works different than my old team. The code base is managed different than my old team. Everything is different. There's some technology inside that is familiar to me, enterprise level stuff, but I'm getting to learn a bunch of new things. It's just I'm not used to being the guy that doesn't know anything. Max overall, missing an L. But it makes you humble, I guess. So apparently I have misspelled that in a lot of places. I don't always cut and paste, but when I do, I make sure, or no, I don't always make typos, but when I do, I make sure to cut and paste them 50 times. Okay, so the max overall population anywhere was 1,000. Where is that? Yeah, I want to know where the max population was. If max people is greater than max overall population, new max people at, oh, you know what, these are the people. That's not actually what I wanted to know. I wanted to know just from the cell itself. So let's make this different. Cell.max people. Yeah. Okay, now it makes more sense. New max people at cell loc. Max people. Oh. Yeah. On the new project, I'm using MS Teams a lot to communicate with people. That and Slack and stuff. It's new stuff that we didn't have to use on the old project. We were using different technologies. So I got that going for me. So let's just make this equal max people. Cell.max people. Alright. Doink. Nope. I did something wrong. If cell.max people is greater than. Okay, so the very, very highest was 147. That was at 28,416. So let's see, 28. Whoops. Oh, I lost it, so I gotta do it again. 28,416 and 25,344, which will be down here somewhere. 25, somewhere around here. Yeah, like right there. One of these guys. Oh, right near the river, sure. Yeah, so it seems very likely that a town would form right there. Let's keep an eye on that. The other thing I don't do is I haven't turned the rivers into networks yet, so I don't know when I see this river up here. I don't know whether it actually connects to the sea or not. I haven't done that, but it occurred to me that that's the same thing as these are basically just pre-calculated routes, and so when I build my routes for roads and sea trading, I can build river routes easily just by traversing those river plots. So, okay, so the max population that we saw was 147, and I presume it could be higher than that. So let's call it 150, and so this max people divided by we want to say 150 times visited. So this is the max people that we've accumulated for every site around us. We figure that the max at any given site could be 150, and we visited this many, and so this will put it in between 0 and 1, and we should get something more reasonable. Ooh, that's quite ugly, in fact. So that seems unreasonable. What I'm going to do is put a marker next to these so we see how tall. So we add 500, we add 400. Color RGBA black. Let's just make it black so it barely shows up. Yeah, so see, we had such high population there. And we basically have nowhere where it maxed out. So I've again done something wrong. Yeah, I discovered that I had many bugs, even in the calculations for the distances from rivers. Yeah, so something's wrong here. Population should be pretty high. Let's go back to calculating population as a max people thing. So we should get back to 1,000. Yeah, 1,000, and we hit 1,000 at minus 2816 minus 19,584. So way up north. 19,584. And then what was the X again? Minus 2816, so way over here. Yeah, so see, even the max one isn't at 100%. So there is a problem. And what did we decide visited was again? Visited is 13. It's weird that it comes out to be exactly 1,000 though. When you see things like that, when you've got other random numbers and you see one that comes exactly to 1,000, it makes you wonder if something is maxing it out somewhere. Max people, neighbor plus max people. So what we could do is go back to our debug site and let's just leave it here for a second. We'll change this to I found that letting these bugs go was tripping me up because like I wouldn't notice them. I between the live streams and the rapid development that I was doing, I was compounding errors on top of each other, and so then I would be everything would look okay, sort of like the river distances and stuff, because they were always short little hops. The distances were looking okay because it was actually just taking the distance between one of the endpoints rather than the distance from the line. And so when I was doing the detailed analysis, I would notice these things, and so I'm being very careful not to let bugs slip through, and this makes it spend a little more time. So the max people was 248 at my best site, and so no, that okay, so that's new max people. Where was my debug? Debugging, blah blah blah. Max people of the cell was 14. Again, let's debug. Let's debug this instead. Let's debug the new max people location where we had 1,000. Hopefully it's entertaining watching me flounder around with my own code. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff about debugging. I know I am. Okay, so we're setting a debug flag if we happen to be calculating the data for that particular site. So we should see a different debugging. Yeah, debugging that. Max people 125. And somehow we got to so let's print for each of these. What was the max people? If debug log info neighbor max people so then we should see a lot of stuff. Neighbor 22 blah 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 blah. Is that really 1,000 people? By the way, folks, if you don't have your spreadsheet app open, you're missing an opportunity to oh, thanks. If you don't have your spreadsheet stuff open, you're really missing an opportunity. Why is it not saving? You're missing an opportunity to save yourself a bunch of time. Yeah, okay. For some reason that one's not working right. So point to point to point, yes. And so we can say some. Yep, so it is 1,000. It's just a weird coincidence, right? That 13 values would just add up exactly to 1,000. So why? Yeah, I don't care about this one. Don't save. But why isn't this one saving? Seems to be locked up. Oh, it eventually did. Okay, cool. But I find, you have to calculate little graphs and stuff. I've really started to rely on external stuff. Anyway, So this is the max, and we still didn't max out probability. That means our numbers are messed up. So what was the... Yeah, see, even though we did hit 147 at one of the sites, I'm thinking 100 is probably a better average max. So that's at least gets us... Yeah, it still does, it bothers me. So rather than try to figure out why my math is weird, statistically speaking, that's one of my weaker areas. So we know the maximum we saw was 1,000 people at one site, influenced by the radius and so on. And we know we visited 13 different sites, so we'll say like 75 people is the per site average. And that means occasionally we might go over 1.0, but that's all right. We'll figure that out in a different way. Okay, so at least our site that had the maximum of the whole map is now maxed out on probability as well, when we make probability the same as people. Okay, so now we've got all these values. We've made them at least notionally 0 to 1. We can actually force that, which might not be a bad idea. So let's make sure it's never more than 1 for any of these. So, and I'll show you why in a second. So we don't really need to do this anymore. And so I don't need this anymore, and I don't need this anymore. I'm in the that's good enough stage. Okay, so, and we'll do the same thing here, just to make sure that these are really 0 to 1 based. What I don't want is probabilities that go over 1.0, because what I'm going to do is shave a little off so that there's always a chance that something won't form there. There's never a perfect dice roll or, perfect probability. And so I want everybody to be 0 to 1 based, and then I'll use that in my calculations. Okay, so we want to just say double people or max people. And did I set that one to double? Nope, but it is now. Oh, I didn't even do seaports. Seaports equals math dot. Oh, we need river ports. Seaports is not what I wanted at all. Can I just... No, skip that one. Yep. Okay, so the river ports. Oh, I have lake ports as well. Let's just say ports. Ooh. No, we'll do river ports for now. Lake ports shouldn't come into play, actually. River ports. And so let's see. Let's just check river ports for a second. Did I yeah. So there should be some river ports here. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so no river ports there. Let's actually it's kind of cool. We can pull out here and we can see which seaports have also river ports by just the yellow highlights, which is kind of cool. Okay, so this is a high probability area for lots of things, which is kind of cool. But it is a nice little secluded bay, so it's actually kind of cool. I don't know. Again, my imagination always runs wild with these things because, like, oh, if we form a town here, it's gonna look cool. It's definitely got a seaport, and it's off in this little shielded bay. There's cliffs on it. Yeah, it's gonna look cool, and they're well within the visual horizon. So just standing here, you'll be able to see the cliffs across this ocean. That's like, yeah, or not an ocean, sea, a bay. Anyway, and then I like. Sometimes when I'm really looking to waste time, I'll go ahead and take the coordinate and I'll warp myself there in the game just to see what it looks like at that site. And maybe we let me take a screenshot. Maybe we'll do that later when it's time to. Oh, it's almost time to wrap up. Crap. I want to get to a point, so we're going to keep going because I want to talk about probability, and we've got all of these numbers that we want to factor into probability. And so what we can do. What we do is, I don't know if I'm going to move this down here so we know that it's 0. And when you want to keep a probability between 0 and 1, but you want to factor in like all these different things, and you want to give some more magnitude than others, like we care more about river ports and people than we do about blah, 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 wood, stone, minerals. Those are neat, but they shouldn't count as much as people and river ports, for example. And so what you do is you keep a separate total. We'll just call it total for now, right? And so as you go through here, so the probability plus equals wood, and then total plus, that kind of thing, right? And I'll show you what I'm going to do in a second. Stone. And maybe we care less about stone. And so instead of plus equal 1 with plus equal 1 with 0.25. And normally I would parameterize these multipliers. So yeah, let's just make sure we've got multipliers for each one of them so this is a little clearer what I'm doing. So stone, minerals, we'll make that. Maybe we care a lot about that one. And then, what do we got? River ports. So river ports we want, maybe that's 5. Oops. And then, what is the last one? People, max people. Max people, also 5. Let's make that just as likely to make a settlement as, oops, 5. No, it's 5. Oh, okay. So now that we've added all these probabilities in, weighted, but we kept track of the weights that we were doing. And so if down here we say probability divided by total. Okay, so that should give us, oh, total needs to start at, no, total's fine. And so that's the probability for any given site appearing. So high probability here, and it's still 0 to 1 because we've kept track of how much we were multiplying. And so, we could have made these 1 and made these smaller, but it's just easier for me to think about it this way. And I get some flexibility with how I adjust an individual item with respect to all of them. Yeah, so, oops. Yeah, nice. And so, let's take out our little black line because it makes things muddy from this distance. And so here we can see, sort of at a glance, the relative probabilities of each of these sites. And so then the next thing would be, oh, that's too bad I moved away from my, oh no, there's. And so the next thing would be to, I'm going to put this back. Okay, so we've got a probability we like. We want to keep track of we want to make a ordered set of these things, and I haven't made any. So that's the other thing, is like last time I made settlements everywhere and then stuck towns in them as they did it, but this time I'm going to do a little differently. And so yeah, it's kind of cool. We've been keeping track of things, and so we'll make a, if we made it all the way down here, we're gonna make a new settlement. Cell. We're gonna pass the cell. We figured out what the max people are based on the neighbors. Like the idea being that you could have a big city that's going to be spread out, and so it actually supports all the people that are around it, that potentially around it, because it could pull those resources in, you know, water and food and so on and so forth. So this site can support all those max people that we pulled from all the neighbors, and then the probability is what we just passed. For those not familiar with Groovy, probability. Those not familiar with Groovy, you can pass on the constructor, you can set the fields. You know, so that's this cell that I copied over here, this max people, and this probability on the site itself by passing them in. It just happens to be I used the same names for everything, so it looks weird, probability colon probability. And so pending add site. And so we've made this tree set, and the settlements themselves are set up to sort by probability, highest to lowest, and if the probabilities are the same, they'll sort by location or by elevation, so it calculates lower elevations before higher elevations and so on. And so from here, what I could do is while pending while not pending is empty. Let's move these for a second. Let's take our markers out, and let's like so let's say we're going to do 5 of them. Counter minus if counter is less than 0. Break. Okay. Site equals pending. Does Groovy let me remove first from a set? And then we will copy this over to here. So instead of like, we're running out of time, so I just want to show you what I will be doing next and kind of see how these probabilities work out. So instead of cell, we want site.cell, site.probability, site.probability. So I've ordered the sites by probability, and I'm going through them one at a time. I'm grabbing the first one off the pending. It's a queue. I've just made it with a set because they turn out to be faster than a priority queue. And then I draw it for now instead of rolling the dice. And I'm just going to show the first 10, so we see like only the 10 most probable ones when I run this. I could have probably added pins. It would have been better. No, okay, so no, it's not remove first. There is a way to remove the first item from a, let's see, Groovy remove first item from set. Just gotta be an easy way to drop the take sets. Maybe it's take. I know there's a way because I did this recently. Tech collection. Iterable. Take. Does take actually remove it? Let's try it. No. Oh. Take one. I'm gonna have to look at the other code, aren't I? Yep. There's something dumb I've done. Oh, and it's getting a list. Yeah, so that's not what I want. Was it roads where I did a tree set? No. So it's 3? Yes. Best sites. Poll first. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. So these are these yellow marks. Like, let's turn them into pins. Add pin. B, comma, was it 500, 250, color, RGBA, yellow. So this should be some pretty big pins. Yeah. So these are the top 10. If you can see those, let me move this over so we can have more screen. Those are the top 10 locations. If we want to see what the top 100 locations are, we can set this counter to this, and it'll show those are the top 100. And so then what happens is I set a random number generator, random seed. Will it let me do that? I think I've set seed up as a global. Yeah. So then we can say we don't have to do this. We can say double dice equals rand next double. If dice is less than or equal to, so less than or less than, what do I want? Less than. Cite that probability. Well, okay, if it's greater than it's bad. So if it's greater than site probability, we're going to skip it. And let's add the color red, right? An effective site probability. We'll go ahead and skip it to continue. So now we randomly decide, we roll the dice. If that dice roll is greater than our probability, so if our probability was like 90% and we rolled a 95, that's not good. We're going to add a pin. Let's add a red. Well, we'll add just these red lines, okay? And then we'll continue. Basically, that didn't work out. And so then we don't have to do that anymore. So then we draw a yellow pin. And we go. Whoops. Okay. Oh. Oh, wait. It's V right there. Oh. Okay. Okay, so these yellow ones are just random probability. Those are where just the dice rolls would let us calculate towns. Now the part that I haven't done tonight yet, and that I'll be doing right after I have some dinner, is like what I did before, which is for any town we select, so basically anyone that wins the dice roll, I'll go and I'll lower the probabilities within 2 days radius or something, so that we don't get like all these built up on the coastlines, because this is the first pass for large cities like before, and then from there I'll do the next phase, which does some inland cities, which pays more. Basically, probabilities will be calculated similarly there, but with a smaller influence radius. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, I did promise maybe we would go look at that one site, right? So let's go ahead and exit out. If you guys think of any questions you want to ask in the meantime, I'm going to start that. I'm going to see, so I can see that location, which I can barely read. This was the one, right? Yep. Okay, so let's see what that looks like in the game. And feel free to ask questions while I do this, if you have any, or just have kind words to say, or negative words to say, whatever. I have a thick skin this week. Let's see what's going on. So this is where I was messing with, I think, the rivers. It's that same site I showed you in the... Yes, so high probability for inland cities to form on rivers, absolutely. So that's why knowing that there's river portage at a given site is important. And so river ports will definitely, for the next level of towns, river ports will be super important. How it's been testing the new tool? Oh yeah, the stuff we did last Friday, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Frammy. Yeah, this is like the best time that I'm able to do it. So yeah, so Ron, you missed it, but I showed this very site loaded into that blockhead tool, so I could see these towers and how far they were, and I used that to debug why the river bottoms weren't working out right, and to figure out how wide these rivers are, because this town site says it's in a river, and it's not wrong, but I could still build towns on the coastline because it's really far away to the nearest. So here's 128 meters away or whatever. So there's still plenty of room to build stuff here, and so I had to figure out what river width, and that tool was super useful. I also fixed a bunch of stuff with the farm plotting. Okay, so let's do some warping. Minus 2808. What's the other? Minus 190. I think it's 190 something. So we'll just do 1901, because I can't really read it and I can't move my mouse over, so we'll just do that. And come on, pull up. Oh, yeah, I gotta do that. There we go. Pull up the tab. Let's look at the map so we can see when the map comes in. So what was it? 19. Oh, 19. It's a 6, so I'm way far away. 19641. Yeah, it takes a long time. So you can see the farms coming in. Yeah, because still it plots a whole lot of farms. It was plotting them underwater too. I didn't realize that. I need to go back and fix that. Well, I mean, this is just test code anyway. But yeah, super slow right now. You got some farm in the desert here. That's weird. It doesn't check, and it's just dumb. Yes, let's see. We have some farmland here. Little farmhouse. I think the crops still grow right through the farmhouse. Yeah. It's a cool little farmhouse with my my little slope end cap roof. Okay, so let's stop a second and teleport to the correct location. Warp. Minus 2808 minus 19641. think. Okay, so it should be nearby at least. Oops. Oh, not that nearby, I guess. 19641 2808. Yep, we're in the right place. So we fall to the near the water here. Cookie Monster. So, yeah, one of these weeks I may, especially in the summertime perhaps, I will do some live streaming at different times or on special occasions. I'd like to put out another big release in June to coincide with the anniversary of the last big release. And maybe I'll do some live streaming of the release and stuff for that too on different times that maybe other people can hit. Frammy, if you're on the Discord, you can also post like what your time zone is and what times are good for you. Maybe I can factor that into some future live stream. Okay, so see, we're here. That coincides with this location here where some rivers came out. I don't know if these rivers are being plotted, but we'll see. We should be right in the middle of a river or near one. Yeah, rivers are being plotted because here's the river. Okay, and it's nighttime, which means you guys certainly can't see anything. Yeah, make it middle of the day, or not middle of the day, but sort of farmland again. Yeah, there's that river. Okay, so this is where that algorithm figured the highest population could exist. And it's not wrong. There's plenty of trees, lots of farmland, especially going into the water there. And it's kind of cool. There's a bay here. Cliffs over there, so there'd be mining and stuff over there. Yeah. The Discord, so if you see there's a super secret link up here, should be up there, right? You guys can see that? That's the link to the Mythruna download and the password for that super secret link up there in the upper left corner. If you hit that web page and put that password in, at the top of the web page is an invite to the Discord. And basically, if you PM me in any medium, I can invite to the Discord. I'm just trying to make sure that the Discord right now has people who are actually interested in the game and not bots and randos that just wander in by accident. So, but there's no restriction for joining or anything. So if you want to join the Discord, that's where you can find the link. And if that link is not up there, someone tell me, because OBS is supposed to be putting that up there for me. So anyway, here we are. This seems like a pretty good spot for a town, so I don't begrudge the game thinking that it could. Let me check. So again, river carving is still all messed up. Don't worry about that. But so do we have really a possible seaport here? Yeah, because we can go below the yeah, so there's from here we could have had a port, and let's see if we can make it all the way out. So there's a bay here. It's pretty deep. Let's see how deep the bay is. Again, water's not being rendered. Underwater is not being rendered correctly at all. I just haven't bothered. So can we make it? Yeah, so ships would be able to make it into this and be able to make it back out again. Yeah, so we got more farmland than the bottom of the ocean over here. Yeah, yeah, so. Yep, so there would be, so yeah, that's kind of cool. So ships would be able to get in here. This is a pretty decent spot. I would love to live here as a game character. Right, it's a decent little area. Major river coming in from probably, where is it, deep in the, yeah, there's maybe mountains back there. Yeah, this is a pretty good site. I'm gonna have to remember where this is. All right, guys, I think that's all I'm gonna do tonight. We went a little over. Yeah, here underwater farms. Did it put the house underwater too? No. Okay, so nope, just the farms. Oh yeah, because the site itself wouldn't have grown underwater. Hey, but we've got a house that doesn't have farmland growing through it. It's got its little porch here. 2-bedroom farmhouse with a little loft area up here. It's basically big enough to stand. All right, guys. Thanks for joining. Again, link to the game in the Discord if you want to download the last version I released, which was from January, I think. And the Discord link's in that link as well. And I will see you guys next week or online in the Discord. Thanks for joining, and I will see you next time. Much love to you all.